Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. I'm back this week with Kyle Fergusson, who never left, holding down the fort last week with Bahamut. Thank you, dude. How you doing? I missed you. I missed the listeners too, but I'm sorry, listeners. I missed Kyle more.
I'm glad. Well, I hope you had a pleasant vacation.
I did, man. It's a weird thing. It's a weird concept this year. And I'm just very thankful I was able to take some time and go disappear with Katie and just relax.
Yeah. Sounds delightful. Well, the world went on without you, and the Heroes is good. Heroes is good.
I got back and I got an immediate wild hair, Kyle.
Yeah,
just wild hair. I got back, sat down, launched Heroes of the Storm. And you know what my brain said? You know what my brain just started shouting in the back of my mind? Hell, it's about time. I'm playing Tychus again, Kyle.
Okay.
I just got back. I just want to play Tychus. My brain was like, where did we leave off? Someone like an inside-out character is going through the filing cabinet. Tick, 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 tick. What was the last thing you were excited about, but you didn't take action on? Oh, that's right. Tychus got buffs. We should play some Tychus games. And so that's what I'm doing. My first game went great, had a healer, had reliable CC, and I haven't had it since, and I've been doing terrible. Just absolutely terrible, Kyle. That first game, it was a trap. It was a trap. I was like, ooh, this is going great. Look at this. It's like riding a bike. I can get right back on the Tychus bicycle and do what I used to do, which is own. But no, I can't. I have gotten far too used to the mobility of mages like Orphea and Li Ming, which I was playing quite a bit of before I took my break. And for all that armor, Kyle, Tychus is made of paper.
Yes.
I mean, yes. Visually armor, he doesn't have a
right.
mechanic.
Sometimes he's in a swimsuit, but yeah. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, actually, I should probably just start playing him in the swimsuit, so I'm in the mindset that this man is naked in terms of how much damage he can take.
There you go. That might be helpful. I mean, Tychus is in a really weird spot because Cassia. It feels weird to have a post-Cassia reworked Tychus in the game. Something that feels so team-dependent, so... I mean, I know where I'd take him over others, and that's like Versonia. Because we're going to have a tank, we're going to have Sonya, and that's going to be a lot of health. And there might be another melee thrown in there because Sonya's going to be busy doing merc camps and whatnot. But outside of that scenario, why not Vala? If you're going to be squishy, why not Vala?
Why not Vala, Kyle?
I don't have an answer for you.
Really, I think it's because I like Texas better.
Yeah.
Also, like that got you, that end of you think you got away got you that frag grenade brings, and like I was just interested by the changes that they made, and then also it made me go. As I navigate in the background, because this is an off-the-cuff top of the show conversation, it made me go and take a look at statistics, Kyle. And when I started looking at just stats from the most recent patch, I noticed something. I noticed that Master Assassin at level 4, Kyle, is the most underpicked talent at that tavern tier. Here I go again with Battlegrounds. Talent tier. Picked 16% of the time to in the rhythms 54% of the time. Mm-hmm. But can you guess the win percentage from all games logged over on HOTS logs on the most recent patch? Can you guess the win percentage of In the Rhythm versus the win percentage of Master Assassin?
I'm going to go with In the Rhythm at like 48 and Master Assassin 63.
Oh, okay. Wow. That is not even close to right. You're actually kind of close on In the Rhythm. No, it's not that wide at all. Not that wide at all. But In the Rhythm coming in at a gentleman's 51% win rate.
Okay.
And Master Assassin at 53.3%. So win rate wise, much more competitive. The bigger they are, coming in at 46%. Not so great on the bigger they are.
I think the bigger they are is a great talent when you're possibly in coordinated play or you have that Genji or Tracer. In a Storm League game, there are very few situations where I'm like, I would like everybody to be at 35%. Does that sound nice, team? And they're like, no, we want them dead. Check it out, guys. I got the tank to activate their survivability button. Like, nice job, Tychus.
Yeah. So I'm really enjoying my time. I do think in my anecdotal experience, he is too risky for quick match play at this moment.
That's fair. I mean, some of that, I played a game with you earlier and we fought Light Bomb Abathur Tracer, which was just I really think a report for in-game abuse is actually warranted in that case. Nah, I mean, I've done stupid things, but I've streamed stupid things.
No,
laser comp or
I know what you want to do, Kai. You want to be your usual self. You want to give these villains an out. But I'm not going to allow that, Kyle. I'm not, because you know what they're doing. They're doing that every game, and they just think they're so clever. They're patting themselves on their slug teleporting tracer backs. They think they're so clever.
Yeah, I like feeling clever. It's fun with friends. You land the Zarya, Gravitani thing, and then Phoenix lasers from across the map, and it gets, you're like, oh, we did it, guys. Aren't we cute? But light bombing Tracer, who is half a screen away, and then she goes zip, 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 and makes it land on top of everybody. I'm not impressed. And in fact, it hurts more, not that I'm losing, but the fact that you think you're so cute on the other side. Like, that's where my tilt comes from, when it's like Ariel Vala in a Storm League game, and they're the 2-stack, and they're winning hard, and you're just like, the pride you must be feeling over the smugness. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a smug comp.
See the Prius episode of South Park. That's what's going on in my head.
Yeah.
Just
covering that map in smug.
So self-gratifying. It's wonderous. But anyways, still enjoying.
You're gonna be part of some like YouTube video or clip compilation. And you're just like, oh my god. You right clicked me so hard. Oh no. Samurai. Oh no, I've been clicked on. Crud.
Crud, they clicked on me. Yeah. Well, it's why I love it so much when you tell me great polymorph, Garrett. I go, man, I tried so hard. I'm glad you liked it.
I mean, sometimes there are cool counterplays. Like I was very proud of my grenades into a Tassadar earlier. So every time he tried to cast his buzz, his psionic, it's shock ray. It canceled early, and that was very rewarding for me.
It worked really well.
But it didn't have such a huge impact on the battlefield that we all had to stop and upload it.
Yep. But whatever the case is, I'm still enjoying my time, and a good portion of playing Tychus feels like riding a bike. But being aware of my surroundings and the limited mobility of Tychus and the challenge that is surviving on him, I'm really struggling with that. So I kind of want to keep working on him, but I think I don't know. I need to either like make a team and go into quick match or just start playing him in draft if I want to play Tychus.
I mean, he's not a main, really.
Yeah, not like he used to be.
Right, and that was very much based on his range and his ability to get around. And I know, talking about the Tychus range is so much like, ammo. Like, we're just farting up memory tree and thinking, all of the past was a great thing. There are things that can be done to Tychus that aren't as regressive, if you will. Like, we could have a bacon of press the advantage into dash, or any of those dash talents that one maybe could be baked into his regular dash. His grenade is fully functional, but quarterback is such an important part of getting those far picks, because you are limited in your range, and keeping people close to you or getting that kill as they get away is really important. And it opened up you to Relentless Soldier, which is so important because you're getting locked down, earning the tank that you're trying to get. So I would love to see the Cassie treatment happened to Tychus, but we'd all have to accept that he would have to lose a lot of that damage and maybe just completely lose in the rhythm, because that might be too much.
Maybe. I am in my brain hasn't really been here since Rhaegar was able to self ancestral again. And now I paused for effect to see if you see where I'm going with this.
Not quite.
Okay, that's the stuff. Can we just make it good again as opposed to the post crappy nerf version that we've had for years now?
Yeah, it's really weird.
So he's.
Can you think of another hero that is as detrimental stacking a talent?
What do you mean?
Because you go in the rhythm.
Yep.
And that's the stuff is useless. Because you are now at, 12 seconds of sweet burning people down, and that heal does not come in at any point when you needed it. In fact, you're usually like farting around the back line 12 seconds in. It finally pops, and maybe a support is taking care of you at that point. Like, is there another, like maybe Nazebo, who's just like a little bit of spiders, a little bit of toads, maybe, and just never synergizes? Is there a talent or hero in this game where you can just not get anything from taking a pick after another pick?
I'm certain there are. I'm completely failing to recall an example.
Yeah, because there's definitely bummers. Like you take Illidan and you end up doing, like maybe your spells now heal you at 7. And then later on you don't go spell damage or marked for death or something like that. But that's not the worst thing in the world. You just unoptimized.
Right. Yeah, it's just that heal happening after is just rough.
Yeah, and chat brings up a great point too. Of course, you can pop in Odin, which forces it to end and gives you that heal. And sometimes that
but then I have to take Odin.
Strategy. Whoa!
I don't think you should be taking Odin.
Oh! Damn. I think Glazer's a disappointment outside of things like Gul'dan and the like.
I mean, I would argue both of his heroics are kind of a disappointment.
That might be. I don't know.
I think they both seem quite undertuned.
I've had such great times in Odin.
Odin is fun. I just don't think it's good.
Well, we must agree to disagree.
This is a multi-layer conversation because I think we both agree that Tychus is still very much a niche pick into very specific compositions. But yeah.
Maybe what we need for Odin 2 is some Tassadar treatment, because Tassadar got a bunch of talents that now work during Archon, and Odin does get some. He can active Relentless Soldier still works. You've got your Nano Steel coating that can still be popped for 75 spell armor. Let's see, Bob and Weave at 20 still works during Odin.
Yep. But his trait doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No, and that really bums me out. Also, I feel like we've had a lot of armor creep in this game, and 25 armor just doesn't seem like enough on a hero that direly needs self-healing and doesn't have it.
Okay, that's fair. You're talking about Odin still, because Relentless Soldier got buffed to 30. Yes. But yeah, Commandeer Odin is at 25. Last 23 seconds, though. I don't know. He lacks so much range and siege.
Yeah, that gets into like my wanting to tease you reaction of it doesn't matter. It lasts 23 seconds. You're dead in 12. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to encourage you.
I'm also. I think. I will willfully admit, I really just miss the old days of winning with Tychus when I hit my trait. And so I've always been a little anti-Odin, even post all of the changes they made.
Sure. It's always a weird exchange, and ideally you're using, your minigun and then letting that go out, but that's not always the case. And sometimes that's not simply safe to go out there use your cooldowns and then pop in Odin on the other side, even though that's some nice math moments. But ultimately, it comes down to you'd be better off putting all that work into Mephisto, Hanzo, Junkrat. Like, there's just a lot of heroes that you could main that aren't Tychus, and that makes me sad to say. Raynor. Raynor is really solid right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sylvanas.
Yeah, if you just want to like deliver damage and guarantee that damage gets delivered, right? There's better all around options. And it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. I got very excited because I like the changes. I think they're very interesting changes. I think they're smart changes, and I think they are effective. But it feels like so many other heroes, and in admittedly subtle ways, are becoming a little more ubiquitous, like a Nubarak. I think the recent changes to Nubarak were really successful. And I think I looked at these Tychus changes kind of in the same light, and I don't think they're even close. Like, they are so far away from, I think, as effective as what we saw happen over on a Nubarak. Because I looked at these and I was like, okay, all right, maybe we can consider taking Tychus, outside of very specific scenarios, and I don't think we do.
I mean, I've got a project for you.
Oh,
if you were on my team with your Rexar right now, I'd be telling you what's your double soak hero. That's where your work should be going into as a solo laner.
What's my double soak hero?
Yeah.
I mean, Rexar could be one of them.
It's okay, but I'm looking for something like
Kyle, do you miss your Q, or do you take the wrong level 1 talent on Rexar? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I miss my Q on a lane? That's savage, man. What are you trying to say?
Then I don't know what your problem is.
I'm talking about things like Malthael or Leoric or, Zul is banned out on most double soak maps. But Malthael is usually my call, actually. Like, without trying to fight you here, Malthael would be my comfort double soaker there outside of Zul. Yeah.
If Zul is open and you tell me double soak, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going full skeletons build, and I'm about to have the most fun ever not interacting with other players.
I mean, I don't need that job to be better, would be my argument against full skeletons, as fun as it is. As joyous as it is, I would be concerned that when you show up to the team fight that you perform at maximum, in which case a blue build would be where I'd want to point you.
And then I say, well, what's the opposing comp? Because am I going to get to play the game? Because then blue build is crap.
Yeah, it's the thing about blue build is it's good at pushing. At the same time, it's good at the team fights. I love doing scythe build personally. Like, any excuse where I'm like, I'm not going in there. It's 1 front line and 4 back line. I'm going scythe build, everybody. And everyone's like, boo, get this Zul out of here. He sucks. But I love that damn thing. It's fun to drag the scythes around.
I'm with you there, man. And dude, I love blue build when I can make it work, but I've just seen so many stun stacks as of late. So at least,
I mean, I'm talking to you from a place of my recent team play too, because I just took over the team as shot caller, took over the team as No, I'm doing all the talking. So I'm gonna call it a takeover.
Oh, no wonder
I'm doing
you
all
have
the
more
shot calling. I'm
opinions
doing
than
all the
usual.
drafting.
Great. No wonder you have more opinions than usual.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm micromanaging everything. I'm spying on the enemy teams before we go in, managing the draft, managing all the picks and the shot calls and the tanks. And so I'm playing a little bit of ETC again. So I've had to swallow my passion picks down. And actually, ETC is a lot more fun when people back you up. Or like with Coffee, he's got an Alarak. So we can say, you ready? I'm ready. You ready? Okay. And then he does his combo Alarak stuff, and I stun on the other side. Like, that is making ETC enjoyable, and it's why I'm playing him in solo queue again, because I actually have a project for that. Outside of that, I'm just spamming Mal'Ganis, because Mal'Ganis is hot at the moment in solo queue. Really good against May.
Cool. I was seeing a lot of them before I left, so good to know that hasn't changed, even though I'm so sick of fighting against Mal'Ganis before I left.
Yeah, that has not changed, no. Yeah, and if they don't have an ETC, I don't really know how to manage him in an effective way. Because you got to have the pushback, really. So you can do Lucio or Raynor, but somebody's got to push him back during his sleep so he doesn't just control the whole battlefield.
How does
and May is Awful
How
at
does
it.
polymorph work? Is that why I saw you hovering right wing today? Are you working on?
No, that was just to like soak and have fun in quick match there with the sweet teleport in. But I think polymorph could do all right. That's an interesting thought. I hate polymorph on Garrosh.
Let me look at his
When I'm
matchups.
Garrosh, that is a brutal stop to everything you want to do. Maybe it would work well on Mal'Ganis. It would full on cancel the sleep too, not just push him back.
Shouldn't it?
Yeah. No, it'd turn off. He wouldn't come out the other side still sleepy. Sleepy laser hands thing.
Sleepy laser hands thing.
Yeah, I don't really understand the web of sleep energy he summons between his hands and flies around with, but yeah, I respect the team's desire to not have it be a right click on a single target.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, anyways, before we get into a wider view of our meta that we find ourselves in, let's thank those everyone over at patreon.com/ITN for supporting this here very podcast. If you like what we're doing here on Into the Nexus and you want to support us, head on over patreon.com/ITN. You get access to our Discord. You can sign up to play in our monthly patron games, which is tonight, right?
What? No, next week.
Next week. Okay.
Week.
Gotcha. I couldn't remember what we agreed on while I was away.
Technically it should be tonight, but vacation and I never know how anybody comes back from vacation. I'm not going to sign them up for a late night.
Extremely relaxed, but brain definitely working slower than usual.
Yeah, no, that's not a time to be, getting a little try-hardy. We have fun, but we try.
It was a weird time to come back and try and go over hundreds of over 100 cards that have been revealed in another video game that I cover. That was weird. It was like, information overload. But yeah, so go check out patreon.com/ITN and to some of our more recent patrons, Greg Heist, Zesty Plays, and Andrew Fuang. Thank you so much for your support. Again, patreon.com/ITN if you want to support Kyle and myself here on Into the Nexus. Now let's get into this week's Here's the Storm news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes, I'd mana tap that.
So we're 2 weeks into a new patch, Kyle. Time for the 2-week check-in.
Yes.
What has been going on outside of Tychus? Because I think we talked enough about Tychus.
Right. I mean, what we're going to do is divide these into successful buffs, failed buffs, and do the same for nerfs. Of course, there's nuance here. Like calling something a failed buff doesn't mean the buff actually didn't function. It could just mean that everyone got really excited about Blaze, played Blaze, and couldn't play Blaze. So he's down 0.5. He still received a pretty cool buff. But what is interesting is we saw a huge jump, almost 4%, for Maiev. And Maiev got a little bit of a quality of life change to her level. I believe it was 16 Giant Killer. And before it was kind of absurd how much work he had to put into it to get that Giant Killer functional. The big surprise to me is definitely Morales, also close to 4%, who received a rather minor buff, an increase in armor, which, I just gotten Morales is excited for an extra 5 armor, now at 35 on Safeguard.
Gotcha. Interesting. So
The one that
whole patch is actually down a little bit. You're looking at 2 weeks?
Yeah, the full 2 weeks.
Okay, gotcha.
So things are going to change a little bit, and of course, these stats may have changed from last night when I went over them, but Garrosh is an interesting case, because I think Garrosh, from this update, got a really easy-to-use build with that soldier talent he received. And if you mix it with your level 13 Blood Craze, you now got yourself Seasoned Soldier, increase your max health by 5%, and an additional charge of Bloodthirst, compared to Wrecking Ball talents that are Wrecking Ball talents, all about interesting choices and strategy, rather than just live, which is what a tank wants to do in the first place. So Garrosh up 1.3%. Cho'Gall up together, they got a nice buff. Diablo up 1%, and Kharazim up 0.3, which makes perfect sense because it's about 0.3 of a win rate that should be for a little bit of self-healing increase. And I that's me trolling. It was an AoE self-heal, but Kyrosims are going to heal themselves first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some really fun games since I got back alongside Diablos. I mean, I feel like Diablo players never went away or even close to it. Lord knows I was annoyed with Diablo for what felt like a whole year. But had some really great games alongside Diablos. So.
We're definitely on the bottom half of things. You know, we're 47% win rate on Diablo. It's not beautiful, but he seems very map dependent. I know I have extreme opinions about where Diablo is not going to work, and that just phases him out of maps entirely, which means he doesn't ever participate. And I mean, if let's see here. So we got Volskaya Foundry, 40% for Diablo, which is a bit of a shock. I think the walls in there are pretty decent. It's actually Hanamura Temple that I avoid like the plague at 46%.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, there's probably more wide open spaces on Hanamura Temple than I think.
Oh yeah. Oh, those cart fights you have, particularly for, are they even called B and C? But you know, the secondary locations. And
yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Because it seems like when I think about the map, I think of there being so many walls, and yet this is the map that we constantly complain about. Please, for the love of God, add some walls and cover up my damn wells. So I guess not. And it's kind of deceptive in a visual, because you're right. I think back to a lot of the fights that happen in the one where the cart always stops, right? Which is away from walls. That's usually when teams start to clash, is either in the middle of the lane if you're going to the standard positions, or the openings within the jungle in the middle of the map. They're going to the secondary positions. It's
right,
like
and
just out of range to connect to those walls. So you see the same thing happen with
maturity.
like really disappointing Oreo whips.
Yeah, certainly. And Battlefield of Eternity is a great example of the opposite, where it sucks being in lane on Diablo because very rarely are you going to get a decent wall lineup that's maybe not out of tower range, but the objective is just full of walls and full of interesting places to stun people. So that's where the game is perhaps won more than just, we're all soaking together, let's get a pick maybe. I don't know. When it comes to objective, that gets a little more volatile.
We're all soakers now.
Oh, and Braxis had 41% as well for Diablo, and that's a long go because that lane phase is long. And there are some interesting angles in there and whatnot, but you basically invite people onto the pad to try to deal with you, whereas so many other heroes can do that better.
Also, if you think of the exit on the pad, it's kind of an outward-facing cone if the opposing enemy is playing safely, so it doesn't really lend itself to landing a good stun. There's like that sweet spot where if they take one step too far, you can kind of hit them on the edge. But, yeah. Makes a lot of sense. But I'm glad to see Diablo up nonetheless. I've been having some good games. I hope to keep seeing Diablo.
Well, and when we look at the failed buffs, we see things like Muradin, which just some encouragement on Muradin, down 0.3, so not a big deal. Blaze down that 0.5. Tychus down 0.8. Mal'Ganis down 1.1, which is a bit of a shock, as we just talked about Mal'Ganis being everywhere. But
well, they're probably listening to you say he's the new hotness, and then we've got some new Mal'Ganis players out there. It's okay, we're all learning.
Right, we might be breaking our build because maybe we're taking blind as a bat in a bad situation, and it's now causing you to rampage across the wrong side of the map while the team fight takes place somewhere else.
Kyle, that seems like a really personal example.
I would say that I've learned my lesson pretty well. I think I successfully blind as a bat sometimes.
Okay.
Normally I don't. Normally in solo queue, I'm doing wave of bats kind of thing and helping with lane clear and helping with AoE, and it's a lot of good healing. It's hard to give that up just for bats, but bats, if anyone is confused about where you should do bats, it's when you think you might have good team fights, but what you really want is siege. You want to spin around that core like you're Sonya, just going over and over again to win the game. That's where blind as a bat is the best thing ever. Siege damage.
Makes a lot of sense. Huh. All right.
And then Stitches down 1.3, which is a bit shocking. He got a lane clear buff and a buff to hook range, but probably there were people saying, I'm not going to Johanna today. I'm going to do Stitches. And
there's also, I was having this thought because I was breaking on my vacation and looking at stats and thinking about the game. And I was thinking about just the impact of the game getting its first new hero. Because as much as you and I talk about, this game's in a great place, it's really healthy, it gets more frequent updates than most other Blizzard games, including the most popular ones. It's still a huge deal. There is no substitute for a new hero hitting the game. That gets people hyped. New Overwatch heroes have historically gotten people very hyped. And so I was thinking about the fact, I'm like, we are seeing an increase in players in the game again. Dear God, the statistics for Hot Slogs have been amazing this month. And I'm just thinking, like, a lot of these, like your Muradins and your Stitches and whatnot, I mean, these are heroes that have been there since the tech alpha. So if you're a returning player, you might also be predisposed to want to play them, on top of the fact you go look at the new notes and see buffs on these classic heroes.
That's very true. Plus, I guess Stitches is 7,000, but he's on the cheaper end of things, at least.
Yeah. I mean, he's not on the highest end of games played, but he's also not like one of these niche like Probius heroes that barely have any games logged. So yeah, I don't know. You know me. I don't have the highest opinion of our Abomination friend here. But
I don't think that should change, honestly. I'm not trolling Stitches. I think he's still really cute in the off lane. I think getting him with maybe like, and that's kind of where I fall, is like that Uther off tank. You're basically bringing a second tank if you're doing Stitches. So why not put him in the solo lane? If that's not the case, what are you putting up there to reduce the burden on your melee amounts? Because once you got Stitches, maybe Uther, you're going to throw a Blaze on there? Like, what? Who's left? We got to get some serious damage behind that to make sure those stuns actually equal something.
Yeah.
When you could just have ETC.
It's been a very long time since we used this phrase, but burden of execution comes into mind, and also just the burden on the draft. Now that you have locked in that Stitches, how do we need to adjust accordingly?
Right. With solo queue in mind and everyone having to now make adjustments. Like, I mean, yesterday I played a game on Braxis where we had a Malthael and a Rag. And we won that, but what an uphill battle to make sure we could get that Rag or that Malthael in range. Like, who was solo lane? It ended up being Malthael, and Rag had a very, very hard time out there.
I don't have an answer for you.
Well, we can go on to successful nerfs. And ETC is the big nerf at 2.3. This was the nerf to his face melt and increasing the cooldown on it, which is definitely felt and was warranted.
Yeah, although it looks like he is dipping below the 50% win rate. Again, imperfect stats. It's not like we have every game played represented here, but quite a few games played.
Next, heading downward was Urel, who is down 2.1. And that's a little brutal for poor Urel. We're getting to about 46% win rate on her. She already has this reputation in the low leagues of being 0 damage, so no one really wants to see her. The performance of Urel is very much dependent on if a team can come together and supply enough CC to get her killed. And it seems she's just dying more without that 10 armor, which of course is encouraging people to do other builds, and those aren't exactly successful at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's another one where I have like my reaction is just entirely selfish. It's just like, well, I don't really want to fight against more Urel, so I am okay with this. But at the same time, going back to the conversation at the top of the show, which is like, it does seem a little bit like we're trending towards finding more places for these niche heroes. And so is that a goal for Urel? Urel, I don't know. I think Urel is a different type of niche hero, right? It's more niche in like the people that play Urel, the player type, right? More so than the comp.
Yeah, and you have to wonder what the to steal AZ Jackson's phrase, the salt wall is with Urel versus something like Tracer Light Bomb, right? Like, Yrel is successful when she's frustrating, when she distracts, when people chase her, when people target her wrongfully. That might be more on the enemy team's side to avoid those pitfalls, whereas Tracer is the pitfall. She's on you with the light bomb. That's not something you really have counterplay to in just a random comp. Whereas you can control yourself and not chase Sammy when he's low and running away, or not waste too much time looking for Zeratul, even though you have good control of the objective. And that's kind of where Yrel falls. Mm-hmm. So I don't think she needs a rework or a turbo buff in order to make her legitimate. It's just going to be one of those divides based on skill. And then another one based on skill is Mephisto, who is down 2%, which makes perfect sense because he was nerfed exactly where he lives, right there in the lightning build.
Yeah, which was one that was, you and I were very concerned about Mephisto for quite a while this summer.
Yeah, he's trailed off quite a bit. And I think a lot of it is just due to this nerf. I expect the Mephisto players to loop back around once they've experienced some other heroes. They kind of, go, okay, maybe I'll try some other things. Maybe I'll do a skull build. Maybe I'll depend my build on the type of situation I'm facing again.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. Johanna, down 1.6 with the Iron Skin nerf she received. And that cooldown increase is a little strong. Johanna's not able to do all she was able to.
Yeah, Johanna's wild because, again, I watching her dip below 50%, barely, right? Like just ever so slightly. But
yeah,
we haven't seen that really, I think, ever for basically Johanna's entire existence in this game.
Zul is down still at 54%, almost 55%, so he's doing fine, rightfully so. Tassadar down 1%, he's also doing fine. Rhaegar down, he's doing fine. Cassia down, doing fine.
Yeah, everyone you just rattled off were like top 10 heroes that had plenty of win percent to play with, and we're probably a little overtuned.
But there was an increase in win rate on Greymane, who received a nerf, which I don't think has anything to do with Greymane in particular and Cursed Bullet being moved around. I think it was more that we took down all those heroes I just mentioned. And so maybe a lot of our Mephisto said, well, I'm just going to play Greymane. Not that it's a 1-to-1, but we took down a lot of the top end. People make their way back to the old top ends.
Yeah. Chat was asking if Bloodlust is still the expected ult, and my understanding and the statistical understanding is still very much so, with Bloodlust being picked twice as often as Ancestral Healing and having a 56% win rate to Ancestral Healing's flat 50% win rate.
Yeah, I think it's just about ease of use and the desire to hit a button. You're also helping inform a pretty healthy comp in a lot of ways. I know I have a ridiculously hard time tanking when I don't have regular sustain, and when you get yourself in the early pick let's say a Kilthos Rhaegar, everyone goes, okay, all right, yeah, let's make a team comp that works now, and we get a Raynor, even though the person probably wasn't showing Raynor at the early, they were showing Li Ming. Like, Rhaegar's presence and Bloodlust's activity almost forces the team to go, all right, settle down, everybody, let's make a good team comp.
So overall, I mean, how are you digging the meta at the moment? I mean, it doesn't seem like it shifted all that much. It kind of seems like the first big change, which was the introduction of Mei and Cassia being competitive, and now being the top one right hero, is still kind of the status quo.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really healthy meta at the moment. The tanking is an interesting flow, and if I were to describe at least my personal idea of it, I still think ETC is top tier when we get to just his ability to not be countered by other tanks. The buff to Diablo's Life Leech allowed Diablo to do well into Mei and Johanna, and he was already doing well into Johanna before Mei showed up, so that works out perfectly well. ETC is the counter to the mouths. I'm even wearing a Malfurion shirt, so I'm real messed up today.
I could say Tavern Tier again if that'll make you feel better.
Yeah, it will. Thank you. I'm so refreshed. Mal'Ganis is top tier. I'd say he's number one despite his win rate, but ETC is his counter pick. So we're going to put ETC on top of Mal'Ganis. So basically, we end up with a kind of tank structure that goes ETC, Mal'Ganis, Diablo, May, Johanna, Garrosh, and everything after that is big old question marks based on where you put enough skills in your personal character sheet of points in order to be a good enough tank with anybody else who exists. And that is an interesting problem. Not that it again will matter more when we get rid of Cassia from the ban area. Right now, we're still banning Cassia. We're still banning Zul on his double soak maps. We still ban Tassadars here and there. I don't see Rhaegar bans anymore. But so that usually equals a realm where basically there's maybe one ban, possibly, but rarely two bans going into tanks. And then the tanks go, okay, I'll take this, you take this. And we move on from there. But if we clean up Cassia, and even what if Tassadar gets another nerf, then we're looking at a situation where all games are going to have Arthas versus Blaze, and who knows what that's going to look like, because we'll just nerf out ETC Mal'Ganis. And then Diablo's the counterpick to May or Johanna.
I think that would look really cool.
It'd be fun.
Fire and Ice, Kyle. What more do you want thematically?
Okay, that is cute, but I'm still trying to decide where I put my points right now. Passion-wise, I'd love to make my way back onto a Nubarak. I think he is a stun machine. I really enjoy playing him. He is so squishy.
Yeah,
and making his decisions are very brutal.
I know you spent a good deal of time explaining why you're enjoying ETC again because you have a project and so on and so forth. And yet, I have a feeling you're going to agree with me when I say that I think a Nubarak is just the infinitely more interesting version of ETC, if not the more ubiquitous and poster child for tanks that ETC is.
It's just that skill shot on his spines. What would we even call it? Impale. Impale can miss. First incoming Mal'Ganis, and Face Melt does not miss. First incoming Mal'Ganis.
Yeah. I have no idea what's going on with the desync live for the video crowd. It's real bad, and I've already tried changing servers, so I think we're just gonna deal. So,
shame that.
Shame, indeed. But anyways, good to know. At the end of the day, it's cool that the tank meta has at least been somewhat upset.
Yeah.
Because it was really set in stone for basically the entire year. It extending even back into 2019. So that in that way, I'm happy. I just want to see a change up. That change up is, however, Mal'Ganis, who I am currently struggling against, and should probably talk to you at some point off air about what to do. But yeah, whatever the case is, I'm pretty happy with the meta right now, and my picks are still okay. Some of it doesn't feel as effective as they once were, but yeah, I think it's all right. So let's move on to more takeaways from the AMA that we haven't had a chance to cover on this show yet, because there was a lot in there, Kyle.
Yeah, we went straight into our AZ Jackson interview, straight into Patch Notes episode after that. So let's loop back around and see what the tidbits were from the shared information. And a lot of this is timeless because it's all talking about the future or what we're not getting, what we are getting.
I mean, some of this, seriously, dude, I think we could do almost entire episodes on. Obviously not this first one. It's pretty straightforward. But Requeue/Ready Check feature is a high priority for the team. This is according to Daybringer. And have we ever talked about a Requeue system? I'm not so certain we have. I'm sure it's come up in passing that we're like, when I get disconnected while the team is forming, I really wish it would put me at the top of the queue and not maybe wait for the entire same length of the damn queue that I had to wait before. But that's basically what a Requeue system is. Meaning if you drop out of a game as the team is formed due to disconnects or other issues, you're going to be added re-added to the queue with a higher priority than usual, so you're not going to need to wait as long in the queue as you did before the game that failed upon putting the team together. So
yeah, it's spilled milk. It's not a big deal when I have to, with my friends, sit around and go, oh, we missed. Oh, okay, everybody hit the button. Hey, wake up over there, hit the button again. It'd be different if it was way more burdensome, like orange juice.
Yeah. It'll be a nice update. It's going to be a nice quality of life update, and apparently it's high priority. So
the ready check too is interesting. I can only imagine, as a game designer, making a ready check just feels like the most ridiculous thing in the world. You're just sitting there thinking, you signed up to play a video game. Why aren't you ready to play the video game?
Yeah, so that one I'm less clear on. What's going on? What the heck what do we want? We want a ready check? I don't understand this one.
Yeah, you know, and then everyone hits the button and says they're here, and then we pull the boss kind of thing. So in other MOBAs,
I'm aware of it in an MMO. What the shit is the point of it in a MOBA?
Oh, well, you're sitting in queue for maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, depending on your region, the time of day you're playing. So it goes and lets everyone say, yes, I'm here before it starts the draft, so you don't sit through a whole draft and the person's still AFK.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Dota. I'm familiar with that. Okay, I'm like, wait, you mean in-game? That seems unnecessary. But, okay, no, that seems fine. That seems like an okay... Because the queues can get long.
Oh yeah, no, I want this as a player because it's really disappointing when the banner's AFK, and certainly when you go through the whole thing and nobody picks anything. But on the design sort of things, this would be so low on my list because I just don't know why people don't play the video game, have sound active in the background while minimized and all that. But I'm also my 30s. Like, the chance of my mother ruining my queue is 0.
Kyle, I would like to point out you have a child now.
I do. Well, yes, that is true.
You have a completely different perspective, or a completely different reason to be distracted from queue.
Well, that's different because I wouldn't queue up while my child is awake.
Well, you're a thoughtful individual, and a lot of people aren't. So,
okay.
I was trying to paint a picture for you, Kyle, on how your life has changed in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And instead, you made it so that I had to throw shade at strangers on the internet. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I'm too busy, playing this game where I throw a blanket over him and then he rips it off and hands me the blanket back. Like, there's plenty of gaming happening around here. It's just not at a computer.
It's kind of amazing how similar it apparently is to play with a baby and to play with a dog.
Yeah. I mean, dogs get to what, like 2? Maybe 3, like, intelligence, depending on, like, if you got some sort of super sheepdog or something.
Mine know, do you want to go to bed? They get really excited when I ask them that question. Which, the idea of being excited before you want to go like lay down and go to sleep is just endlessly amusing to me. But
yeah, I need to reach that. That's my goal. That's my life goal right there.
I think I've already achieved that life goal.
Oh, dude, I've got the trifecta problem in my life where it's food, workout, sleep, and I hate one of these at a time, and it just circles around. Like right now, I'm in my I hate food phase. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to cook, I don't want to see, I don't want to have to be burdened with eating. And it'll change. 2 weeks time, it'll rotate around this triangle.
Sounds like you need to take a break. You need to just do a meal kit delivery service for a couple weeks. Give yourself a break from the decision making of it.
Yeah, man, we've ordered out once this whole thing.
Wow, I don't know.
We've been cooking it up.
I don't know how you do that. I at least pick things up quite a bit. So, anyways, back into some AMA tidbits that we haven't talked about. Daybringer also said that they are working on ways to have separate MMRs for solo and teamed rank play, though there is a lot of work to be done. If you read the actual response by Daybringer, to me, it does not seem like this is anywhere on the horizon.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I mean, I'd love it personally.
Oh, I know you would.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I've gotten our team's win rate since I took over the shot calling. We've gone from 29% win rate to 38% win rate.
Well done.
And that's factoring in the old. So we had a great like 3-1 practice this last week. It's going good. We won our first of the 3 matches we've done so far, but our first ever Heroes Lounge matchup, and it was very motivational. Yeah,
and then
solid.
And then Kyle Dates got into rather deeply the issues of Reinhardt. And as someone who is really passionate about Reinhardt, I'm a little bummed, but I understand. Because the subject of Reinhardt was brought up, and Kyle Dates kind of talked about all of the reasons Reinhardt really doesn't work in Heroes of the Storm if you're trying to be truthful to Reinhardt's kit in Overwatch. And a lot of this response was dedicated just to poking holes in Reinhardt's barrier and the challenges with trying to bring an ability of that type to a game like Heroes of the Storm. Because in Kyle Dates' own words, quote, blocking projectiles isn't a huge problem, but blocking AoE abilities is. And hadn't really thought about that, because you and I both talked about have daydreamed about bringing Reinhardt to this game before. And I didn't really think about the challenge of like, well, what the hell does a shield do with an AoE ability? And so Kyle Dates went into a bunch of different challenges with that, which is the expectation essentially is for basic attacks or abilities like Frostbolt and Hungering Arrow to be blocked. I think we can all imagine how that would work. The shield goes up, the Hungering Arrow intersects with the shield and just ceases to be. That's the end of it. Maybe the shield has a health value, and eventually you can break through the shield. Cool. Awesome. You've added Reinhardt to Heroes of the Storm. But wait, Kyle Dates points out, what about abilities like Cone of Cold or Multi-Shot? What about Flame Strike, which can just be cast behind the barrier? And I go one further than Kyle Dates and goes, what if the Flame Strike is half on the barrier but half past the barrier? What now? And so Flame Strike to a certain point, I think I would go forward and say, it's fine. Just let it do its thing. It's easy to understand. It's a ground effect the shield is not interacting with. Let's let Flame Strike be Flame Strike. But Cone of Cold, Multi-Shot, these zone of damage effect abilities that are not like tied to the ground, that makes a lot of sense. I get the challenge that comes with that. So
yeah, for the fantasy, you would want Multi-Shot to be absorbed fully. How do you program? And it's also like when we think of the graphic, like Flame Strike goes wah, boof, underneath. Multi-Shot is actually the crossbow shooting multiple shots that go in an arc, but that doesn't really matter. It does hit one area sooner than another, perhaps, but it doesn't really matter for probably the spell registering.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
So what Kyle Dates needs to get into is like how the game understands those zones of damage from something like a cone attack, like Multi-Shot. And so like I would assume that the game just doesn't have a way to like bisect a predetermined zone of damage.
Right.
Like if the cone of Multi-Shot, like part of it was obstructed by barrier, but part of it wasn't. I'm not sure the game has any way of being able to reconcile that the way it's currently built.
Oh man, there's so many cool ideas that shouldn't see the light of day in a MOBA, such as what if time stop let you auto attack? Like so Zeratul does a time zone and Violet goes chuku 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 chuku, and then at the end of it, like all those arrows go flying into the target because they were suspended in the air.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with that. I'm happy that doesn't exist.
Yeah, me neither.
And Living Bomb's okay because it like targets him over the shield, but Tassadar's multi-beam bouncing attack, does it go into the shield and then not bounce? I can see why it'd just be a headache and all right, throw it out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And then they also talked about there's issues with the rest of his kit being just too damn similar to other things like Diablo's Charge, Stukov's Heroic Massive Shove, saying that his projectile attack is basically identical to Lion's Fang on Varian, which didn't even think about. because Lion's Fang is like such a boring attack in my mind. It's like such a boring ability, but it is.
That's more exciting when it got a heal on it. But
that
yes.
is like literally Reinhardt's attack. So I get what they're getting at there. And I shared similar concerns about May. I mean, how many times on this damn show did the idea of May come up and we're like, well, we already got a wall with Tassadar. What the hell are you going to do for May? There's nothing you can do. Sorry, moving on. And clearly they proved us wrong. But yeah, I love Reinhardt. I really do. But I also completely understand everything that Kyle Dates lays out here.
Well, the other aspect is you'd have to let him auto attack on nothing but air, because it's not Reinhardt to me unless he's wildly swinging as he walks towards you.
No, Kyle, but that's what's cool about Here's the Storm is that the heroes look cool all the time because we have more control over when they attack.
That's fair.
As opposed to first-person shooters where you always just look dumb constantly because of player input versus the actual look of the game.
I can even see Earth Shatter being a little too everybody else's kit. You know, we've got a little bit of Cho'Gall in there, or at least Cho. You got a little bit of Thrall in there.
Yep.
I think May was so expertly done though that they could find a way if they could find a consensus. And it sounds like that's where they're hitting the wall, and that's perfectly understandable. Don't waste time trying to come up with something that is just too much work right now.
Yeah. Again, it's like it's a hero I kind of was really hoping to see one day, but I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot. Like, I'm still, when I saw Li Ming was incoming, or at least a wizard from Diablo, I wanted the time stop. I think that in Diablo, watching those orbs slow down and move through the gelatin of time space was so awesome. But I absolutely understand why that's not a thing. And then we get right back into the same situation I just mentioned with time stop on Zeratul. Or what if Chromie thing did that? Like, it's so messy. You walk in there and you accidentally walk into all the arrows that are going. Like, oh crap! I just took 10 auto attacks.
Yep.
So I did get a glorious scenario this week where I got stuck in a Chromie time trap, or not time trap, slowing sands, and Dahaka dragged me out of it. And since he was allied, I got full speed getting out of that thing. So it was very nice of Dahaka.
Sweet. Well, that's rad. Well, we've mentioned hot slugs a couple times today. And while I was away, the team made some really rad improvements to the site that I didn't want to call out. So if you haven't been over to hotslogs.com in a while, I highly recommend you go check it out, because if you go, you'll see at the top of the new homepage, well, the same, not the new homepage, but new at the top of the homepage is a little glowing area telling you to check out the new reputation system. And this was a requested feature by users of Hotslogs. In fact, some of the folks in the ITN Discord requested it. And it basically allows you to go into your match history and upvote or downvote your teammates, and also the teammates on the opposing team, on whether you think they were helpful or good team members or not.
It's in a beta right now, which makes it interesting. Such as I'm at -4 at the moment.
You're -4?
Oh yes. Well, so the system has certain limitations, or a system to avoid abuse. So you want to go in and downvote somebody. And I had just the person in mind from a recent game.
Yep.
My chat will know exactly who I'm talking about. And I went over and I was like, oh, let's test this feature. I'm going to go, yes. Oh, good. All these good people I've known. Good. And then I went to downvote that one person, and you get -5 when you downvote. So with the one vote I got from a friend out there that gave me +1, I took myself to -4. But that system means that when I'm choosing to downvote someone in Hotslogs, I'm really debating, because I had the salty Li Ming the other day, and I went and downvoted her first, and I was like, yeah, that was weird, Li Ming. Now you were weird. I'll demote you.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went, oh no, I can't. Now I'm in the negative. I can't downvote anybody anymore. I'm going to have to debate. Well, this person clearly deserves it more. So I went and downvoted them instead.
Yeah. And so we, so this is just within Hotslogs. Obviously, it's not affecting Heroes of the Storm, to be abundantly clear for things that I think are hopefully obvious. And so we've got a new leaderboard up where you can see the people with the highest reputation and the lowest reputation between regions. You can switch between US, EU, the Korean server, and the Chinese region. And as you mentioned, Kyle, the rating that you have is kind of also an inherent currency, because you need to essentially spend some of your own rating to downvote someone else, because we're trying to gamify it to a certain degree and also deter wanton downvoting of voting your friends, stuff like that. So go test it out. Let us know what you think. It's very much beta, kind of playing around, seeing how it will work. Our thought is to even once it's out of beta, to even restrict downvoting at all if you're not above a certain point threshold. That restriction is not currently in place, so we can just test the system. But yeah. So,
I think it's awesome. I think it's cool to spend the currency in that way, to be able to go by a profile, see your match history. Reporting is such a blind thing to do. And I know my threshold for reporting someone to say that this person doesn't deserve to play the video game. Blizzard, mom and dad, please take this video game away from this person. That is a very high threshold for me. There are obviously, in modern times, things that warrant me to jump there. But for the most part, if you're just being kind of an ass, I let it slide.
Yeah.
But this hot slog system is really good because I'm not punishing you. But when someone else goes by your profile, I'd like for them to see that I had an unenjoyable time with your presence.
You want to Yelp review other Heroes players, is what you want to do.
Yeah. But and this is great because it's not a star system either, because then I always end at like 3 stars. Like, I'm like, they played the game. Everyone deserves at least 3 stars. Like, what does a restaurant have to do to get 1 star from me? You have to be committing crimes against like nature and humanity. You got to be a monster. Because I understand that like the till worked, you're making money, you're feeding your family. Like, how can I be so cruel? So this is perfect for me.
Yeah. So go test it out. Very early. It's only been online for a few days now. So only a few people have even tried it. Brand new, never been on the site before. So go to hotslogs.com, check it out. And please save your emails. There is a link at the very top of hotslogs.com on the main page. When you go, click on that link regarding the reputation system, because it will explain the entire thing. I will not be fielding questions about how points work. It's all there. It's all there. Go take a look.
I would like to point out the team analyzer that was added, because that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah,
Analyzing
I think
my own team and
I think it's more niche, but a lot of people that listen to this show do play in Heroes Lounge and other leagues. Right now, I believe it only functions in the way you've been using it, Kyle. Only functions for Heroes Lounge, but you can also look up players directly with their battle tag. So if you go on Hot Slugs right now to my account and then go to team overview, you're going to see a new gray box. Again, very much in beta, not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's functional. In it, you can enter battle tags to quickly look up players on the team that you just got matched with, so you can quickly see their Hot Slugs profile. If their games are up to date because they or someone else who was in a game with them have uploaded them, you'll be able to see their match history, how they are with certain heroes, stuff like that. All the stuff that you would go to Hot Slugs and try and find battle tags through other means, but this just makes it a little bit easier. If you have a Heroes Lounge account, if you're playing in Heroes Lounge right now, Kyle, you can go in and see the information of the teams that you're about to play. I can't, because I'm not in Heroes Lounge. I'm not on your team. I'm not about to go play them. But you can actually just copy and paste the entire damn page for a team listing on Heroes Lounge, paste it in there, and it will automatically grab the battle tags and show you the team's profiles on Hot Slugs.
And that shows me the recent heroes, even what their average damage is per game, which is really useful because, particularly when analyzing like the supports, I need to know how much damage the support brings, because that tells me kind of where they are in skill level, how much impact they're going to have. So it's been really cool to see. I'm really excited about using that tool and making that world even easier, because right now I'm going by account by account by account. So this next week, I just get to load it all in.
Yeah, exactly. So enjoy. And all this, of course, assuming you even use hot slugs in the first place. These players aren't using Smurf accounts, that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
those are the challenges that come with this. We're working with public information and incomplete. Hot slugs is only as good as many of you are uploading to it, which is always a good time for me to do a call to action and say, go to hotslogs.com, get the uploader, upload your games, help the site be better. So thank you, everybody. But anyway, didn't mean for that to be a Hot Slogs infomercial, but I was really impressed when I got back and I was like, holy crap, guys, you've done so much while I was away. This is basically like conceived and made while I was away. I sat down with one of our programmers, Aviad, today, and dude just knocked it out of the park on this, I thought. So go check it out. Send feedback through Hot Slogs channels. If you send them to me, I'm just going to forward them to Hot Slogs channels. So tweet at Hot Slogs, Facebook Hot Slogs, email Hot Slogs. We also have a public Discord up now, and I would highly, highly recommend that's how you interface with the Hot Slogs team, because we're all in there, every single one of us. So go check it out. And now, Kyle, would you like to take an email or two?
Let's do that.
Sweet.
Darkness stopped calling.
Darkness just texted me.
It's not the moment, it's a hero brawler!
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. If you're supporting us on Patreon, you could drop a message right in the Patreon Discord. If I'm on and I see it, I might just start talking to you right then and there. Sage writes in, says, question for the show. Since you are a Tychus fan and he recently got some buffs, can you do an explainer on him? I find him confusing. For instance, how does his basic abilities interact with one another? Should you D then Q, or does the D really neutralize your Q? Is D only for auto attacks? I believe that sometimes you want to have your E for escape, but sometimes you want to use it offensively. So what does your E do in relation to auto attacks, or your Q and your D? I love this. Love the way this is worded, Sage. Any tips and combos would be great. What build do you like now and why? What synergizes? Thanks. Love the show. Really wish I thought ahead or read ahead before I went off on my Tychus rant at the top of the show.
No, we'll make a nice Tychus sandwich. We'll have one email after this, so it'll be a sandwich with a side. It'll
Cool.
be perfect.
Sounds great. I like jalapeno kettle cooked chips.
Okay.
Yeah.
One for the chips. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Could
So
have been a warm side, I mean, it could have been a burger and like fries, or like stuffed puffs, like hush puffies or corn thingies.
a burger is a sandwich. I will take that stance, but it is not what I mean when I say I want a sandwich.
Okay.
If I want a burger, I will say I want a burger.
As long as a hot dog is not a sandwich. That's not a sandwich.
I mean, it's technically meat between bread, so I think the argument can be made. But again, not what I mean when I say I want a sandwich.
If you came to me and said you want to have a sandwich, I'm making hot dogs, I would assume you're some sort of monster that breaks the back of the bun. And I have to somehow manage this
frankly,
hoagie hot dog.
You didn't even need to go past that. You could just say, "Oh, I'm making sandwiches." Or you want a hot dog? I would just assume you're a monster at that point,
Or that you're making sandwiches for yourself, but I get the side grade hot dog.
Well, it depends on what those sandwiches are, Kyle. If it's bologna, I would say the hot dog is an upgrade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, shall we?
Fancy
Now, before we get into a tier list of lunch meats, shall we answer Sage's question?
Okay, let's do that. But we should definitely make that tier list.
Oh, we should. We'll save that for weak sauce.
Okay, the sandwich tier list.
That's great.
Roast beef, S tier.
Oh, specifically, blood red roast beef is S tier.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
I actually think I make an argument. There's a color of roast beef at every tier.
That's like pastrami too. Like sometimes they just go too nuts on like the outer skin. It's like made of pepper.
Yep.
Anyway, Tychus.
Yes. Who will give them some pepper? Nope, that's Rainer.
Right. The first thing we need to address is that overkill, even though it's coming from your minigun, is not a basic attack. And your minigun, which is what you're basic attacking from, and the name of your D, your trait, says activate to have basic attacks against heroes deal bonus damage equal to 2.5% of their health.
So never D then Q.
Right. You will cancel your D.
And you don't want to cancel your D.
No. You want that D to go as long as possible.
I mean, I love it when Kyle D's properly.
Right. Everybody does.
Kyle's D going as long as it possibly can. I want Kyle's D to get maximum value because it is a valuable D.
Right. Exactly. And when I'm in the rhythm, I want to, hey, Q is great. Basically, what you want to be thinking about is Q is lane clear. First and foremost, like no tricks. Q has a great cone. It can help you lane clear. And oftentimes, Tychus is going to end up in a little bit of solo lane. Not that he's great at it, but he has decent lane clear to help out. Just attach it to probably a back archer. The primary target always receives more damage, about twice as much damage as the cone. And as that cone kills the initial target, it'll auto choose what the new main target is of that cone. So you want to be updating it. You want to go Q, middle back minion, or maybe you can just do the wizard. That's really nice and very convenient. Just lock on the wizard, you cone the whole thing. And then as the wizard dies, you might need to change that Q onto other things. So use it for lane clear first and foremost. Otherwise, I want you to think of mini gunning your enemy and then using your grenade to knock them back slightly towards you to maintain them in that range. It's just it's a little thing, but that stutter, you can think of it as, ruined momentum. It's a daze, but a mini stun, a mini root, whatever helps your brain figure that out. Mini gun somebody with trade on, burn, and then use that grenade to knock them back in.
Which gets a lot easier at 7 once you get quarterback.
Right. Run and gun dash a short distance is very nuanced. Sometimes you're using it for escape. Sometimes you're using it for engage. There we get into such a huge pile. It depends. But basically, because you have smaller range than other heroes, you're thinking a lot like a melee assassin. You need to make sure Blizzard's already out before you run and gun. You need to make sure you're not going to be standing in an Orphea ult. The long list of things that are most important to you in this game need to be dodged with run and gun, or need to be cast in some other land before you choose to run and gun aggressively.
Yeah. All well put. On the subject of the Q, I think overkill is also kind of it depends land on when you should be using it. But the tip I always give to new Tychus players is think of it as a finisher, because you kind of want to stand and deliver as much as you can with your trait active. And then they're going to get scared and start to escape. And that's when you're going to hit Q and just keep the damage coming while you chase them down in motion. And then hopefully by then your frag grenades come back off cooldown again as well. If they had enough health to even survive the whole opening onslaught of you popping in, hitting your trait, hitting them, frag grenading them back. So you're continuing to hit them for the duration of your trait. Then you pop your Q,
Right. So a pretty Tychus gank, if you were to be rotating, which is a great place for Tychus to be, is only 3 seconds on minigun. So let's say top lane Infernal Shrines, to give you a visual. They're pushed up to the wall. They're getting some siege damage in. So you go through, you wind through that little middle bit, and you come out halfway into the lane and minigun them for 3 seconds. And as they retreat in a very obvious noobish way, straight down the lane, you then, after the end of the minigun, and as they start to leave your range, would engage your Q. And once they're running in that straight line, it'd probably be easier to use the frag grenade to keep them in the queue, and then use the running gun to maintain that queue on them. There is infinite different orders to that particular scenario, but that's what a nice, pretty little engage would look like.
Yes, and if you can start getting that down kind of as muscle memory as like kind of your Tychus engage, it becomes a lot easier to understand when to break that for specific scenarios you find yourself in.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so,
then
hope that helped.
What was that?
Hope that helped our writer here, Sage.
Yeah. So, and then outside of our personal opinions, when would you take Laser Drill and when would you take Commander Odin? I tend to, the simplest way I tend to think about it is, how important is it? How important is my minigun? Like, basically, how important is that extra 2.5% of their max health? Like, is it a heavy front line, high health composition that we're fighting? That's when I tend to lean towards drill, because I just want any chance for minigun to be active to be taken advantage of.
I think that's fair. I moved from Tychus. Wait, other way around. I moved to Tychus from Nazebo. So my choice structure is more based on something like Gargantuan. Laser drill has a health, and I don't really want to laser drill with Trainer or Li Ming and the like on the enemy side because they will easily destroy the laser.
Okay, so how's their burn? That's what influences your decision.
Exactly. Their ease to destroy the laser is how I make that choice. But against like Gul'dan, where his time invested in destroying my laser, or if it even soaks a corruption, that's going to be huge. So then I'm happy to do laser against Gul'dan. Odin, though, for me, has such absurd amount of range and allows me to go in hard in the beginning, disengage with run and gun, and then loop around in the back for a while and still participate on something like Infernal Shrines and maintain that presence rather than just having to run for the hills and get a well.
Gotcha. And Rafflecopters in the chat room brings up a great example, too, that you should consider. You know, how important is it for you to have an interrupt up with your grenade? Because you can't grenade as Odin. So are you the lone interrupter of something like Mosh Pit? Maybe consider drill. Maybe. But that is your choice to make in a very specific scenario.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it, too.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully that helps, Sage. Let us know how it goes. I always like hearing back from people when we give them very specific advice in Heroes. And now we take the final question for today. Kree Fong Hong asks, wanted to get your thoughts on some observations I've been having on healer performance. At first, I was getting down because I couldn't get big heal numbers like the 100,000 plus healing games. Then I started looking closer and noticed that in some games, there just wasn't that much damage being done by the enemy team. It's a great problem to have, Kree. What seems to be a good predictor of my wins is if I can out-heal the opponent's best damage dealer by a great percent, then the opponent out-heals mine. I'm sure there are other factors like full team damage and self-heals, but it seems like most healers are bouncing around getting the same healing numbers as the opponent's main DPS. Other factors like clutch heals stats feel like they almost correlate with losses. What are your thoughts on what constitutes a good healing game? Boy, I don't really think about it this way. Like I really think about like single target healing versus AoE healing and the scenarios where you would want either over the other, because AoE healing heroes tend to always have larger healing numbers, even if they aren't necessarily more impactful.
That's very true. And that's a very World of Warcraft thing to have when you're looking at numbers, because no one wants to sit there praising the Locke who's hellfiring himself, you know, like, good job clearing the trash. He's the best one on the raid.
Great work.
Well done. Everyone was stacked for your divine star. I think Kree here has a great thought process in analyzing if their healing was effective by looking at the enemy healing numbers. I mean, one of the things I do as tank, if I want to know if I was doing well, particularly on someone who has regeneration, is I look at my self-healing compared to the top damage over there. And if there's a huge divide, if we're talking like one of those extreme cases where Kel'Thuzad on the enemy side was useless, but Vala was going hard the entire time, she's up near 100,000. So let's add together the healing I received plus my self-healing. And if we can get over that amount, then we were looking pretty good in there. And if you in particular are healing more than the enemy overall is doing in damage, which I guess would be impossible, but you know, there's a, you know, non-hero damage that people receive, then you're looking real good. I'm a stickler for damage coming from my supports. I don't like heal bots. I think that there are great capabilities with Morales grenade build, with Ana being aggressive. Of course, Rhaegar's usually in there and lightning shields are going. So, and that ability till much later in the game doesn't have much use.
Yeah, I don't think we need to preach to Rhaegar's about dealing damage as a healer.
Right, but I think about those things. I think Deckard with his cube does pretty decent damage. I want to see you up to 25,000 most games. I want to see you not being in the bottom. That is my main goal. I want to see you beat ETC. I want to see you doing something out there that is having an impact, because that's less damage everybody else has to do. It's free real estate, as they say. And I want that free real estate.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, that's
something
we come back to, I feel like, 2 times a year. 2 times a year, I feel like we have the deal damage as a healer conversation.
Yeah, there are those times. Right now, we have a interesting situation with my team, and Kite Berries plays so many different supports. And I get to make the call as to which support we're going. Sometimes on team comp, like Alex Straza, right? Like we don't want to do Alex Straza and DeMay right now because Blizzard sits on top of it. Everybody's going to die horribly when we try to get a little bit of healing.
Yep.
But we can run an Ana. But I know for Kai Berry's execution and comfort level in Ana, that damage is going to be like 6,000, like real low. So I make sure we stack on something extreme like Avala, something that's just pressuring all the time, huge damage numbers. But when we get Rhaegar, then we can get a little weird. We can do things that might miss, like Li Ming for my DPS, because we still have that throughput that's still coming out the other side.
Well put. I don't know. I think of, is it wrong for me to think of healers very like healer by healer basis? Like I like certain healers into certain types of compositions, because that's just where my brain goes.
No, I think that's great. When it comes, like for me, I heal with one healer right now, and it is Malfurion. And that is where I put all my points. I can do a Rhaegar here and there. I can do a Deckard here and there.
I might need to buy a new computer. What's going on? Patreon.com/ITN. Thank you so much for your support, everybody. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, Chris K, Mike C, and Eric C. You can catch us live Thursdays around 3 p.m. Eastern time. Around that time, sometimes we start late. Over at twitch.tv/AMoveTV. You can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. Kyle, where can people find you when you're trying to get that sweet, sweet D value?
Oh, you can find it over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson for all the Heroes of the Storm streams that I do, including the team practices, the Heroes Lounge matches, the solo queue play. You can also find my Learn to Play videos over at Heroes Hearth. So youtube.com/Heroes Hearth. This next week will be a intermediate macro video. I kind of did the beginner stuff with the Merc camps about 2 weeks ago, and this one's going to go a little bit deeper into that field, so check it out.
Rad. I'm Garrett Art on Twitter, amove.tv for this and every other podcast I produce. Just did a super long Angry Chicken yesterday, highlighting a ton of the new Skullomance Academy cards now that they've all been released. So go check that out. Be on the instance tomorrow for a different Friday edition since I was gone. And that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week. But until then, good luck and have fun.
Take care.